back. It is 10 a.m. in Accra, Ghana. It is 1 p.m. in Damascus. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is World One, live from London. The Syrian regime is desperately fighting to retake Aleppo at any cost and by any means. Local people say military jets are attacking opposition strongholds from the air. Jul25 is following developments from Abu Dhabi. He joins us now with the latest. Mohammed.
Monita, as you mentioned, Syria looking more isolated than ever. The announcement from Turkey that their borders with Syria would be closed later today. Also, more cracks starting to appear
there in Abu Dhabi. Well, rebels in northern Syria are mourning the loss of their relatives and friends who they say were killed by government forces. They are not professional soldiers. They are civilians united in a cause they believe in. Well, Ivan Watson spoke to some of them and heard that despite their loss, they will not give up the fight.
A father stained with the blood of his son.
Flags in Ghana are flying at half-mast to mourn the man some people called a Prince of Peace. President John Evans Atta Mills died in hospital on Tuesday, 3 days after his 68th birthday. His deputy, John Dramani Mahama, has been sworn in as new leader, describing his predecessor as a father, a friend, a mentor, and a comrade. Mahama said it was the saddest day in the West African nation's history. Officials haven't revealed the cause of Mills's death. We want to take you now live to CNN Lagos in Nigeria, where Vladimir Dutier is following developments. Vlad, what more do we know about what may have led to his death?
Hi, Monita. We don't know really what was the cause of his death. We do know that...
Reporting this to us there from Lagos. You're watching World One, live from London. Get set for the Olympics, folks, as the torch makes its way through London. There may just be 2 days to go before the London Olympics are officially open. But did you know? The action starts today. The Olympic football tournaments have so many matches to get through that they have to kick off before the other sports. So starting in just a few hours from now, not in London, but in Wales at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. First on the pitch will be Great Britain's women taking on New Zealand. That's at 4 p.m. local time. Matches are also taking place in, bringing more on the highlights of those football matches coming up a little bit later on. Let's take you now. We've got Zain back with us. Zaini, lots going on today.
Hey, Monita. Well, today's the kickoff, the first day where the Olympic Games are going to start. And we've got ladies first, Monita. It's women's football. Britain is playing New Zealand. They're doing that in Cardiff and Wales. And then the United States is playing France. And that's going to be happening in Glasgow in Scotland. Now, the reason this is starting today, 2 days before the opening ceremonies, is essentially because football just takes a longer time to play out all the matches. So they just want to buy a little extra time.
That's fabulous. And we just also heard that just also come through CNN is that you mentioned Heathrow Airport. The border guards had threatened to go on strike. They have called off that strike, so that's some good news there for the people coming in and traveling into London's Heathrow Airport. But you know, there's still a lot of frustration for a lot of Londoners traveling around the cities. We know that those Olympic lanes are open today.
Yes. A lot of frustration for ordinary people like you and me and thousands around the city because of the...
Sporty as you are, Zaini, I can't see you, well, I can't see either of us on a cycle anytime soon, especially not around London. Of course, lucky to know that the weather has cooperated with you. Zain, thank you very much. Zain Verji there at the Olympic Bureau that we have in East London. Well, newspapers around the world are getting excited about the Games. We want to begin in India with the Asian Age and this headline, Games, a celebration of humanity. It goes on to say, in a world divided by every possible facet of human behavior, it is remarkable that the Games celebrate or generate so much goodwill. That is reason enough to keep the Olympics going. They may come only once in 4 years, but when they do, they bring good cheer. In Britain, this headline in the Independent, this party in a park could prove to be £9 billion well spent. It's a comment piece that says, when you see the young men and women from all around the world arriving in their tracksuits with faces full of hope, what you feel, even if you have no interest whatsoever in sport and didn't think to apply for tickets to see it, is what you probably could only call awe. And in Kuwait, the Al Watan Daily has its focus on Afghanistan's participation in the Games. The headline for Afghan athletes being at Olympics is as good as gold. It says Afghan athletes may not be in contention for a medal at the London Olympics, but they will still give it their all for their war-torn country. You're watching World One, live from London. Gun battles have laid waste to neighborhoods across Damascus. If families do return to their homes, they'll have little to go back to. And as ITN's Alex Thompson now reports, the Syrian conflict is never far from the streets of the capital.
Even as we entered, a man whispered to me, "Tell the truth, the Syrian army is killing the people."
Thompson reporting there. On Tuesday, the star of the Batman movies paid a surprise visit to Aurora, Colorado. Actor Christian Bale met with Kerry Rotman and other wounded survivors of last week's cinema massacre. Who escaped death in that Colorado cinema has lived to give birth. But as she celebrates motherhood, there is still concern for the newborn's father who took a bullet last Friday morning. Randy Kay brings us that story and much more from Aurora.
In a community draped in sadness, there are tiny miracles being born every day.
Welcome back. Well, there was no pain from Spain as the United States men's basketball team lived up to their nickname. Pedro Pinto is here with action from a high-profile exhibition game. What's the nickname?
The nickname is the Dream Team. They've been called that since 1992 when they played the Olympics.
That, right?
Yeah, well, you don't. That's why I'm telling you. That's why I'm here. They conquered the world. They won the gold medal. They had a star-studded team. That Olympics in '92 took place in Barcelona, and the Spanish city played host to the Team GB's Olympic team. I think he deserved it for everything he's done on and off the pitch. I think he should have been part of it.
He's a great ambassador for the country.
He is.
Whichever way you look at, whether you're a sports football fan or not, you know who he is.
Yeah.
And there's never anything negative about him, which is a good thing. He's a positive role model for a lot of people.
And he's one of the few sportsmen these days that really has a passion for playing for their country, and not too many players these days have that.
And he dresses well.
He does. He always looks good.
Yes, he does. All right, Pedro, thank you very much. You're watching World One, live from London, still ahead. Well, he has captured some of the most beautiful faces in the world and some of the most glamorous locations. If you've ever read an issue of Vogue magazine or Vanity Fair, then you'd be familiar with the work of fashion photographer Mario Testino. Despite mixing with the rich and famous and listing supermodel Kate Moss among his best friends, nothing comes close to the affection he holds for his native Peru. So he has decided to take his work home and lend a hand to local artists with his Mate initiative. I spoke to Mr. Testino in his London studio and asked him what it means to him to be Peruvian. How difficult is it for Peruvian artists to really break out into the international stage?
Well, when I started, a long time ago, I came to England in 1976 and I started, I remember the first time I was included in something to do with a group of fashion photographers. I could see on the screen, it was almost like the Eurovision Song Contest, and I was the only country that had come in from the outside. So I think it is hard, more than anything, because today with the globalization, it's not like you have only photographers from one country, you have photographers from every country. For any art form, I think the competition is quite tough today.
I would assume that the focus of your foundation is to give artists in Peru a platform to showcase their work with your support as well. Or is there a challenge, say, for an artist who is supported by you, who's given your stamp of approval, say, to really make it out on their own without someone like you?
I hope that we can be a springboard. I think that we can't make anybody. We can just help. 4 or 5 years ago, I did a book of Lima because there wasn't a book on Lima, Peru, and I didn't want to go and have to photograph it myself because I don't spend that much time there. So I do ask her many times for her advice because I find she has a sort of, I don't know, an opinion that is not, pulled by any side in particular. She's completely even.
What advice would you give artists that are up and coming now, who are starting out, who've not necessarily made it in the proverbial sense, in the big world?
I would suggest work, number one, it's because I see that people get lazy. And
Mario Testino there. Well, we've had picture-perfect weather here in London as the city gets ready for its first Olympic Games in 64 years. But will it last? Meteorologist Mario Ramos is at the World Weather Center with the all-important forecast, Mario.
All important. Everyone's asking about this, Monita. I'm not hearing any complaints about the 30 degrees you guys had in London yesterday, right? Everybody was...
No complaints.
That's right. Let's go ahead and look right now. We have 27 degrees already right there near the Olympic Village in London. 27, can you believe that? Back to you.
All right, Mari, thank you. Sure. You're watching World One live from London. I'm Monita Rajpal. Thank you for joining us. We'll update you of the news headlines in just a couple of minutes right here on CNN.